With Alexander Romanov out for at least the rest of the regular season, we take a look at some trade options and how they could impact the New York Islanders season going forward. All of that coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today. We have got a busy show. We're going to talk about some possible trade targets on defense for the New York Islanders. With Alexander Romanov out for the season, I think it is something the team will definitely be exploring. But what will it cost to get these players? Who's available? And is it worth making these trades? We'll also talk about the state of the team right now. American Thanksgiving, a traditional time to take stock of which teams are going to make the playoffs and which are not. We'll break that down, and we will preview both of this weekend's big games, Friday against the Flyers and Sunday against the Caps. Let's start with the defense situation. And look, we know Alexander Romanov is out for at least the rest of the regular season. And with Romanov out of the lineup, the Islanders so far have essentially turned to Adam Boqvist to step up and play. But for example, if you look at the box score from Wednesday night's loss to the Bruins, Adam Boqvist played about 10 minutes and change, maybe 11. Clearly, Patrick Roy's confidence level in Adam Boqvist is not the highest, shall we say. So it becomes a question now for the New York Islanders. What do you do in the absence of Alexander Romanov? And it's a big question, because while Romanov was not off to a great start this year after signing that big contract extension, he gave the New York Islanders physicality and a defense-first mentality that, unfortunately, roster-wise, they don't have a lot of. And this is a team that needs more physicality overall, that needs another stay-at-home defenseman, because the ones they have right now are a bit flawed and struggling. And let's face it, and everydayers will remember, we've discussed how important it is for the New York Islanders to be more responsible in their own zone, to minimize the high danger chances. When this team was struggling earlier in the year, one of the reasons was Ilya Sorokin was just facing too many shots and too many high danger shots. Well, Romanov helped alleviate that to an extent. And even if he wasn't doing the best job, he'll do a better job of that aspect of the game than Adam Boqvist, who is a right shot defenseman who has to turn around and play on the left side. There are some players who have been rumored to be out there and available. And part of this entire issue remains that there aren't a lot of players out there yet. Why? Because, yeah, we've reached American Thanksgiving, but honestly, the standings are so compressed, especially in the East, where we've seen the New York Islanders go, you win 2 or 3 in a row, and you're in the top 2 or 3 in the conference, and then you lose 2 or 3 in a row, and you're the second wild card, or you're out of the playoffs entirely. So it's tight. And at this point, there aren't players out there who are, being shopped at the moment, because very few teams, especially in the East, are saying, you know what, this just isn't our year. We're giving up and we're going to start unloading players. The other thing that has to be taken into consideration in my mind is this. After the road trip, Islanders go 6-1 on the road trip. The excitement level is very high. But I reiterate again that the Islanders, and I think we've seen this in the 3 games since they've returned home, the start of this 7-game home streak, we have seen that this team is better than they were a year ago, but they are not a Stanley Cup contender. And so you can go out and bring in, you could call guys up from the minors. We've talked about, Mitchell Warren. We've now, we have seen, for example, the Islanders have called up Travis Mitchell. So he's now up. Marshall Warren has to play a game at Bridgeport before the Islanders can recall him again. That will happen later on Friday, later today. So, you've got Isaiah George when healthy. You've got Marshall Warren. You've got Travis Mitchell. Those are your sort of in-house options, and maybe Ethan Bear, who is a right-shot defenseman with some experience. Those are, but those are your options. But ultimately, the one thing I don't want to see right now is the New York Islanders sacrificing the future to win now. So if you acquire somebody, I don't want to give up one of the 2 first-round picks that the Islanders have accumulated. I do not want to do that. In fact, I would like to add another first-round pick before this year's draft. I don't want to give up young players or prospects. I'm willing to, trade away a Casey Cizikas or an Anders Lee for the right player, or J.G. Pageau for the right player. There are other players on this team that don't seem to have as much of a role. And we can sort of discuss that in a different way later on. But, I could see trading Maxim Siplikov, or if he was willing to waive his no-trade clause, and Anthony Duclair, guys who don't seem to have places in this lineup right now. But I am not willing to sacrifice the future. I don't want to give up picks or young players to get a 32-year-old defenseman who's going to be here for only a year. That's not what I'm looking to do. So some of the names that have been out there, a couple of New Jersey Devils, Simon Nemec, who the Islanders apparently inquired about during the offseason, and Seamus Casey, also of the Devils. Both of these guys are right shot defensemen. And look, you've got younger players, but again, I don't want to give up draft capital if I could help it. Nemec, 6'1", probably better known, former 2nd overall pick, right? Casey, a 2nd round pick in 2022. a little further down on the depth chart of a crowded New Jersey Devils depth chart. He's 5'10". Wouldn't cost as much. One more year on his contract before he can become a restricted free agent. We'll see. I again, always difficult to make trades within the division. But then there's another option that's a little more intriguing to me. And that is Louis Crevier of the Chicago Blackhawks. Blackhawks have been drafting really early every year during their massive full rebuild, which is finally starting to bear fruit. And Crevier is, 24 years old, right shot defenseman, 6'8". Big guy. Gives the Islanders size and physicality. He's also got 10 points already this season. So it's not like he's just a physical guy. And honestly, I could see him fitting in. Now, he's originally a 7th-round pick back in 2020. He's played 72 games in his NHL career. And again, somebody who might be able to fit into this team, give them both short-term impact and longer-term impact because he's younger. So let's see what Matthew Darche does. But again, I just don't want to see this team sacrifice the future just to try to squeeze into the playoffs this year. In my mind, it is more important to build that contending team, that perennial contending team that Matthew Darche spoke about so often. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. Let's talk about where this team stands right now. Matthew Darche addressed it right before the American Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is always the time you take stock in where teams are. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we'll preview this weekend's exciting games against the Flyers and Caps, 2 big divisional games. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a Finnish winger who was with the team in the mid to late 80s. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier for me to understand where my money's going and how to make it work harder for me. And if you and your significant other share accounts, Monarch helps both of you stay on the same page. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. So where is this team at? We have reached American Thanksgiving. We've reached the quarter pole, roughly, of this 2025-2026 NHL season. And the cliche, the old maxim in the NHL is that American Thanksgiving is kind of when you realize who the contenders are and who the non-playoff teams are. And it's roughly 3/4, I believe it was 77% of teams that are in playoff spots at American Thanksgiving end up making the playoffs come April. So the Islanders, right now, if the season ended today, before Friday's games start, they're in the playoffs. So based on that metric, there's like a 3-4 chance that they'll make the playoffs. Now, this year, because of the compressed schedule with the Olympics and the way the standings look, I don't know if we'll hit 77% again because the standings are so tight, as we mentioned in our first segment. But again, I think if the 7-game road trip where the team went 6-1 made Islander fans think that, hey, maybe this team is a contender right now, I think the 3 games since that team returned home and the fact that the Islanders have scored only 2 goals in those 3 games tells us that this team still has a ways to go. That while the Islanders are better than they were a year ago, while they have more offensive depth and talent, while they now have Ilya Sorokin kind of returning to previous form after a shaky start to the season, this team, if you were to list Stanley Cup contenders right now, top 7 teams, let's say, the Islanders would not be in that conversation. Would not be in the conversation if you were to list the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference right now. Are they a playoff team? Quite possibly. But they still lack a sniper and finishers. They still lack physicality and size, even though that's not the style that Patrick Roy wants to play. You still need physicality in this league. The power play is dead last in the NHL right now. That needs to be better. And to me, I believe fully that number one, like I said, this team is better than they were a year ago. Number 2, this team is headed in the right direction. And Matthew Darche has made a number of smart decisions. But number 3, this team is still inconsistent. This team still has a lot of players on it that don't fit the timeline of the retool and who probably the Islanders should look to move on from. And I could go down a list of a half a dozen players easily who are candidates to be moved. Everyone has already mentioned Anders Lee, J.G. Pageau with their contracts expiring. And, you know, we've discussed what probably should be the approach to that. Casey Cizikas, who I've been a big fan of for forever, unfortunately, I think he really is falling off his play, his level of play. I don't see where Max Ziplikov fits into this lineup and the style that Patrick Roy wants to play. Anthony Duclair has a full no-trade clause, but if they could get him to waive it, again, he and Ziplikov are playing on the 4th line, and they're just not 4th line style of players, and there's really no room for them in the top 9 right now. Now, injuries could continue, and you want the next man up, and maybe these guys fit in that way. But there are guys you could trade easily. Is there room for Pierre Engvall on this team when he's healthy? I'm not saying you could trade him now because his value is probably negligible. But this team still needs to get younger, faster, more skilled, and yes, more physical. So heading in the right direction, possibly making the playoffs this year. But to me, I still see making the playoffs this year as a bonus. I'd love to do it. And I'll be honest with you, if the Islanders trade away a couple of players at the deadline and add another first-round pick, which is something I really want to see them do for this year's draft, whether it's Pageau, whether it's Lee, whether it's both, whether they throw in somebody else. To me, this team is not a team I would give up young players, picks, or prospects to try to sneak into the playoffs this year. Do I want to make the playoffs? Yes. And even if the Islanders, if they acquire a third first-round pick in this year's draft, they already have two, theirs and the Avalanche's. Even if they do that, and I hope that they do, but even if they do that, if they don't, if they make the playoffs and their first-round pick is 18th or 19th, if you have 3 picks, you can package 2 of them or 2 of them in a player, move up, still get a top 10 pick, and still have another first-round pick. There are things you can do when you have that much trade ammunition. So I'm happy with where this team is at as far as they're in the right direction. They're making progress. They're exciting, which they weren't always under Lou Lamoriello in the past. But I do not want to sacrifice the future to sneak into the playoffs this year. Could the Islanders do a little damage if they get in? If Ilya Sorokin gets hot? Yeah, absolutely. I could see them winning a round, where a year ago, if they would have made the playoffs, I probably wouldn't have seen them winning a round. But boy, oh boy, do not take the improvement of this year as saying this team is a contender or that they're one player away from being a contender. Under Lou Lamoriello, the thought process was we need to make the playoffs, and once we're in, anything can happen. And, if that's what you want to do, if you want to be the 8th best team in the Eastern Conference and then roll the dice and hope you get hot, that's one approach. But what Matthew Darche said when he became GM is, I want to build a perennial cup contender. And to do that right now, you think long-term, not I'm trading away young guys or prospects or picks to make the playoffs this year. We'll see what happens, but that's the way I think this team should be approaching the rest of this year. We have got more to get to on today's show. 2 big division games coming up this weekend. We'll break down what it'll take for the Islanders to get back on the winning track against the Flyers and the Capitals. All that plus our Islanders birthday of the day coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And Islander fans, you could use your knowledge of the Islanders and of the game of hockey on FanDuel as well. Check out the odds for today's game against the Flyers or Sunday's game against the Caps. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, $5 bet. You place that first bet. If you win, you get $300 in bonus bets. Go to FanDuel.com to check it out today. And once again, we'd like to thank you for helping to make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. We couldn't have done it without you. 2 big games this weekend for the New York Islanders, both of them matinees, and we all know historically the Islanders have not always done great in matinees. But today, Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern time, Islanders hosting the Philadelphia Flyers, one of those teams that they are fighting for position with. The Flyers are 12-7-3. They are coming off a 4-2 win on Wednesday against the Florida Panthers, the defending Stanley Cup champion Panthers. What the Flyers have done this year, they have cut down on the goals against. Dan Vladar of all people. 9-4-1, a 2.39 goals against and a 9.13 save percentage. He has been a difference maker. They're 6th in the league in goals against, 29th in goals for. And the Islanders will face a big challenge on their power play, which, as we know, has been dreadful recently. 9 games in a row without a power play goal. Well, the Flyers' PK is 4th in the league. Their power play is 21st, so below average. Right now, it's Trevor Zegras leading the team in points with 21. He has 14 assists, 7 goals. Tyson Foerster has 8 goals. That leads the team. And look, a lot of familiar names here. The top line, Sean Couturier, Matvei Michkov, and Bobby Brink. Noah Cates centers, Tyson Foerster and Travis Konechny on the second line. Christian Dvorak, Trevor Zegras, and Owen Tippett make up the third line. And on the fourth line, Rodrigo Abals, Nikita Grabenkin, and Garnett Hathaway. On the blue line, Cam York, Travis Sanheim are the top pair. Emil Andre and Jamie Drysdale. The middle pair, Nick Seeler and Noah Ulson, are the third duo. Dan Vladar and Samuel Urson are the goalies. Vladar playing exceptionally well. Urson kind of struggling. Rasmus Ristolainen on IR. Flyers, I'm telling you, they can put the puck in the net okay, but their defense has been what makes them more dangerous. Meanwhile, then on Sunday, it's the Washington Capitals. They are 13-9-2. The Capitals will be playing Friday as well against the Toronto Maple Leafs before facing the Islanders 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. Washington, 4th in the league in goals scored, 8th in goals allowed. But special teams have hurt the Caps big time. 26th on the power play, 29th on the PK. So maybe Sunday will be a better opportunity for the Islanders to get going on the power play. The goaltenders, Logan Thompson is the number 1, Charlie Lindgren the number 2. Thompson, a 2.16 goals against average and a 9.12 save percentage. Tom Wilson leading the team with 12 goals and with 24 points. Alex Ovechkin, 11 goals and 22 points. And Washington, they are more balanced. Dylan Strome, Alex Ovechkin, and former Islander Anthony Beauvillier are the top line. Justin Sourdeef and Alexei Protas. Tom Wilson, that's the second line. Connor McMichael, Brandon Duhaime, and Ryan Leonard are the third line. And then Hendrix Lapierre, center Sonny Milano, and Ethan Frank on the fourth line. Martin Ferber-Harvey and John Carlson are a talented top pair on defense. Jacob Chychrun and Matt Roy, Rasmus Sandin and Dylan McElrath. Those are the second and third pairs, respectively. Lindgren and Thompson are the goalies. Nick Dowd and Pierre-Luc Dubois are on IR. Ovechkin always plays the Islanders well. Will the Islanders be ready to face him? Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and I'm going to ask for forgiveness in advance on this one for pronunciation purposes, but basically speaking, Saturday will be the 60th birthday of former Islanders winger Ari Haanpää, the native of Nokia, Finland, 4th-round pick of the Islanders in 1984, made his NHL debut in 85-86, was with the Islanders through the 87-88 season, although he spent most of that year in the minors, and then returned home to Finland and then finished his career in Austria and Germany. Last season as a pro, 97-98. His best season with the Islanders, 86-87, 6 goals, 10 points in 41 games. He also played in 6 playoff games, but did not record a point. One of his better games as an Islander, March 10, 1987, Islanders at the old Igloo in Pittsburgh. Kelly Rudy, the goalie for the Islanders. Gil Malash in between the pipes for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And with the Islanders down 1-0 in the second period, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Ari Haanpää, and Brian Trottier set up Mikko Makala to tie the game at 1. And then in the third period, with the Islanders up 3-1, Haanpaa scores his 5th goal of the year. Mike Bossy and Randy Boyd on the assist. Islanders go on to win this game by a score of 6-3. For Ari Haanpaa, a goal, an assist. He's a +1. He had the game winner, and he had 2 shots on goal out of the Islanders' 24. 20 saves for Kelly Hrudey to get the win. But Ari Haanpaa is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You can find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long. And I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for a little instant insight and analysis. Everydayers, we are back on Monday. We'll have our key takeaways from both of this weekend's games against the Flyers and the Capitals. We'll also put up some 1-minute video shorts on YouTube after each of those games. So check those out as well. Have a great Thanksgiving weekend, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.